Leadership Conference. We are so glad you're here.
We want to start out by giving a shout out and thank you to our sponsors, the Hazel Miller Foundation, the Rick Steves Foundation, the Foundation for Edmond Schools, and a special thank you to our venue sponsor, the Edmond Center for the Arts, for all of their generous support. We would also like to thank all of the staff, students, and volunteers that made this event happen. Please give them all one big round of applause, guys.
My name is Nova Rosette Perez, and I am a senior at Linwood High School, and I will be one of your MCs and guides today.
My name is Anthony Gintel. I'm also a senior at Linwood High School, and I'll be your other MC.
Are you excited? Because I sure am. It's going to be a spectacular day filled with amazing keynote speakers, interesting breakout sessions, and more. We are all here to build our leadership skills together because we are the leaders of change. To start off, here are a few ground rules.
Number one, we respect the space we are in and the reason we are here. We are here to learn together and grow together. Number two, this is a school-sponsored field trip, so you must stay on site for the entire conference. Number three, there is no food or drink allowed here in the auditorium. And number four, masks are required all day.
All right, I want to hear it. Are you ready to get started? Coming to the stage first, we have Mr. Matt Remley. Remley is the Native American Program Coordinator for the Office of Native Education for the Marysville School District.
He has authored and collaborated on several pieces of legislation, including the Seattle's Indigenous Peoples Day Resolution, the Seattle's resolution calling on Congress to engage in reconciliation with tribes over the boarding school era policies.
He was awarded the National Indian Education Association's Educator of the Year Award. In 2020, he was named by the Seattle Times as one of the top 10 most influential people to watch out for in the next decade.
Now please welcome Mr. Matt Remley for our traditional welcome.
Akepi. Chante wastea nape chuzapi. Wakia wa anatan machiab. Wachichu ia Matt Remley machiab. Ia waslaha e mataha. Lakota wichasha himacha. Etukashila wakantaka petukile wopila petukile wawashte yoha. Ina Donna Harrison chiab. Ate Charles Remley chiab. Onchi Dorothy Nadine White and Dorothy Remley Awichakiab. Lala Colonel Harrison and Herbert Remley Awichakiab. Tukashila Petukile Lena Makoche na Mini Wichoniki Awan Wichakiayo. Duamish na Stahobsh Makoche Gile Awan Wichakiayo. Duamish na Stahobsh Oyatigi. Owan wichakia yo tukashila. Tukashila lena wakayanja o hokshila na wichinchila koshkalaka o wikoshkalaka gi ampetukile na sula na chante na nuche yukampo tukashila. Tukashila ake ampetukile wakayanja gi o wichakia yo. Well, good morning, everybody. My English name is Matt Remley. My Lakota name is Wakia Wa'anatan. I'm from Standing Rock, on Hunkpapa, Lakota. My parents are Charles Remley and Donna Harrison. And I'm expressing to you in opening up in my Lakota language in what we call a protocol, letting you know who I am, who my family is, where I come from, and expressing acknowledgement to our host relatives, the Duwamish and the Stahobsh peoples who are now spread on reservations away from their traditional lands here in this area. So I too am a guest in their homelands. My reservation, my lands are back in the upper plains. So Lakota, that means to be a good relative. So each and every day we strive to be a good relative to not just our families and extended families, but to all creation, all our relatives. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to open up here today, share a song, share opening acknowledgement. And in my language, I was asking that each and every one of you come in here to have your hearts and your minds and your ears open to the words that are going to be expressed with you today. Metakue o yasin, all my relations.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matt Remley.
Just a quick reminder, we want to make sure everyone is silencing their phones to make sure we don't have any noise complaints in here. And then also, this is a quick reminder again about the mask being on at all times and no food or drink allowed in the auditorium.
Next up, we have Dr. Gustavo Valderas, the superintendent of the Edmonds School District. Please help me in giving him a round of applause.
Thanks for being here, everybody. And again, want to thank our sponsors one more time. And if we can give another round of applause to Rick Steves, the Hazel Miller Foundation, and the Foundation for Edmonds School District for all the work. And not only that, I think everything that an event like this takes a lot of people. There's a lot of volunteers, too many to name. All your teachers, all the other staff that help support this. And this came from really a dream from Dr. Victor Vegara, or Equity Officer. So for Dr. Vegara, and in terms of trying to have a student-led conference, and this being an annual event, and making it bigger and better every year. So that's our goal, that's our mission, that's what we will do. So make it bigger and better every year. Also want to thank Director Karen Chase, who's in the audience somewhere. I know she's here somewhere. So Director Chase, thank you for being in attendance. And again, thank you for Deb Brandy for making this possible. So thank you. Thank you for all the work. I was asked to make a few words and a few comments about just appreciation of your lived experience. Appreciation of your lived experience. Again, my name is Gustavo Valderas. I'm a proud son of a migrant family from Piedras de Negras, Coahuila, Mexico. My parents worked the fields through California, through Oregon, through Washington. I was actually born in Mount Vernon, Washington, where my mom and her extended family, the extended family, my grandparents, uncles, aunts, my father, were picking strawberries in Mount Vernon Hospital. So I was I was raised in a labor camp. There used to be a Japanese internment camp. And people need to know the history of what happened. And that's why I appreciate the history that's being taught in terms of the real history that occurred, in terms of what happened and the oppression that occurred to so many people, Because that lived history makes you better, makes you stronger, and because, again, when I look out here, you are the future of us. You are the future of us. I was raised, again, and when I was growing up, Spanish was my first language. Hablaba nomás español. I only spoke Spanish growing up. And I also stuttered heavily. So I didn't speak much in any language. But I had great public education. And that public education really drove me to the profession that I am very proud of. No time in my life did I ever think that I'd be a superintendent of a public school system. I never saw people that looked like me in my teachers, in my coaches. And it wasn't until I got to college where I finally had a Spanish teacher that looked like me. And that was in my third year of college. So representation matters. Representation matters. And again, I'm here just to say, be proud of who you are. Don't ever let any limits be placed upon you. And be your best selves, because you are the future, and I am proud to be your superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Valderas. Now it is my complete honor to welcome LHS senior Soleil Keita to the stage.
Hi, everyone. Yeah. So I would like to welcome you guys again to the first annual Student Leadership Conference. Woo! So I wanted to speak a little bit on what this conference means to me, because I think this is such a pivotal moment within our district. I remember in my sophomore year, I felt like I wasn't doing enough. I joined leadership thinking, okay, I want to be able to make a difference. I want to be able to, be the type of person to hype people up, the person that people can turn to whenever they feel like that they need someone positive to lift them up. But I felt like leadership wasn't enough. So when the pandemic hit and I was sitting on Zoom doing absolutely nothing, I decided, well, if I'm bored, I'm going to find something to do that might intrigue me. And that's when I heard about the Student Advisory Committee. And I was hesitant at first, I'm not gonna lie, because at the time, I didn't think my voice wasn't important. I thought that what I had to say was things that everybody had to say. But, you know, I was like, you know what? I still want to make a difference, even if it's minor. So I decided to join the committee, and I fell in love with the group immediately because I realized that there are so many different things that each school wants to work on, so many different things that people view that I never really paid much attention to. So that led me on to join the Student Leadership Conference Committee, which is why we're here today. I believe that each and every one of us is a leader in a different way. I'm not gonna lie, like 2 years ago, I would not have imagined myself standing on this stage. I am not capping with you guys, but I took a lot of time, and it took me leading a Black Excellence Assembly to realize that I have the power to do whatever I want. I have the power to be able to lead however I want, even if I don't have to stand up on this stage. Even if I don't feel like that my opinions are valid, they still matter even to the littlest extent. And that's what I want everybody in this room to understand. We all came here for a purpose. We came here to find where we stand as leaders. Because just because you can't stand up here doesn't mean your voice is not important. Yeah. So remember your purpose. Thank you guys so much.
I would now like to invite Edmonds Woodway Sr. Oh my gosh, I did that wrong. I'm so sorry. We would now like to direct your attention to the screen.
Dolores is an icon.
Dolores came up with the slogan, Si se puede.
Yes, we can.
She's a civil rights hero.
She has such a firm belief in what she's doing.
We've never given up.
She infects you with it.
Dolores Huerta.
She wasn't asking for permission. She just did what needed to be done.
That was racism! Abajo! That was sexism! Abajo!
I would like to invite Edmonds Woodway Sr., Isabel Vergara Ramos, to the stage to introduce our keynote speaker. Please give her a round of applause.
Thank you, Nova. Si se puede. In other words, yes, we can, and yes, I can. You've most likely heard this phrase, whether it's at a soccer game or a protest. It encourages strength and perseverance. Did you know that the person who created it is standing in this room right now? For school, I was given the task to write a 4,000-word research paper on any topic. They told us we would be spending hours and even weeks reading about this particular topic. After thinking hard about what I would choose to write about, it became clear that Dolores Huerta would be it. If I'm being honest, this incredible woman is not given enough credit for everything that she has done. I became so intrigued by the amount of activism she did and continues to partake in. Her never-ending dedication to supporting underrepresented communities, and how she just never gives up. Dolores Huerta is a civil rights activist and community organizer. She has worked for labor rights and social justice for over 50 years. In 1962, she and Cesar Chavez founded the United Farm Workers Union. She served as vice president and played a critical role in many of the union's accomplishments for 4 decades. In 2012, President Obama bestowed Dolores with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the United States. Thanks to Dolores Huerta, my grandma was given access to a union during her time working in the fields of California. Instead of being mistreated, all agricultural workers are now able to fight for their rights. Dolores Huerta is an inspiration to all women, including myself, Chicanos, Hispanics, members of the LGBTQIA+ community, and civil rights activists. Please help me give a warm welcome to the astounding Dolores Huerta, founder and president of the Dolores Huerta Foundation.
Hello? Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Buenos dias. All right, so nice to be here with all of you. Thank you very much for inviting me to share this leadership conference with you. And I cannot think of a better time in the world that we need to have young folks like yourself be the leaders of our country, okay? We need you. We need you. Yeah, we're in such a pivotal time right now in the United States of America with everything that is going on. And so you are very, very lucky to be born at this time because the world, as I said before, the world needs you now more than ever. I remember a lot of young students would say to me, I wish I would have been born in this, or been around in the 60s, because there was so much going on. You had the women's movement that was starting, the environmental movement, LGBTQ movement, immigrant rights movement, all of this was happening. Well, that was kind of the beginning. But you know what? This is like the 60s on steroids, okay? On steroids. And so we did make a lot of progress in the 60s, as you know, with all of these organizations that were starting. But now there's been, as you know, a big pushback. And so some people are trying to undo so much of what we were able to gain in the 60s. And so now it's your turn now, not only to keep what we gained, but to build on it and to make it better, to make it a lot better. So number one, of course, and this is, you're all in school, we know that education is key. Education is really, and because a lot of the issues that we have today, a lot of the challenges, is they really come from ignorance. They come from ignorance because people just don't know or they're not taught. And so we wonder, how come some of our so-called political leaders be so dumb and ignorant in the things that they say? So part of the education that you are now receiving is that you have to become the messengers of peace, the messengers of social justice, so that we can really make the world a better place, the world that you deserve to inherit, okay? Now, one of the main things that we have is, right now there are people that are trying to keep a lot of the history of the United States out of the school books. There are someplace over 1,000 books have been banned in some libraries. Books by Toni Morrison, great African-American writer. And this history of our country needs to be told. A lot of people don't know that the White House and the Capitol of the United States was built by African slaves and the indigenous people who were the first slaves. So a lot of the stuff that we're trying to undo right now comes from that legacy of slavery, the racism that we have in our society. And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, racism is an illness. Racism is something that we have to cure. Now, one of the ways that we can cure racism is just to remember who we are. We are one human race, okay? We don't have a lot of human races. And our human race, our scientific name, and I'm sure somebody here knows it, maybe they can shout it out, What is the scientific name of our human race? Homo sapiens, right? And where did our human race begin? Where? Africa. Our human race began in Africa. And so as our human race traveled across the planet, they went to colder areas. People kind of lost the color of their skin, got different color eyes, different color hair, you know? But at the same time, even though we have different kind of shades of color, hair color of eyes, we're still Homo sapiens, that one human race. We have a lot of different nationalities, a lot of different cultures, but we are still one human race. And so we can say to all the white supremacists out there, all the neo-Nazis out there, get over it, you're Africans, okay? And we know that the only way that we survived on this planet as Homo sapiens is because we had to protect each other and take care of each other and share. Whatever we had to share it with each other because we were actually some of the smaller mammals. There were bigger mammals, bigger than us. They could have had us for lunch, right? But we survived because we protected each other. So I'm going to ask you to do something now. I want you to take the hand of the person next to you. Take the hand of the person next to you. Turn to that person on your right and say, hello, relative. Turn to the person on your left and say, hello, relative. So this is what the indigenous people have always taught us. Indigenous people, our native peoples have taught us that. They have taught us that, yes, we are all related, and we have to remember that. And even when we get mad at each other, and that's okay, because we don't all think the same, we can always remember that the other person is our relative, a human being, and somebody that we have to respect, okay? Let's just remember that. So this is, and if we can think of that in terms of, of nonviolence. This is our philosophy, that we do want to fix the world, we want to make it better, but we want to do it with nonviolence. But that means that all of us, we really have to learn how to act together. One thing about COVID-19 that it did teach us that we do have to protect each other, as I see you are all protecting each other with the masks that you're wearing, even though it might be a little uncomfortable, but we're doing it not only for ourselves, for our families, we're doing it for our community, and we're doing it for our world, all right? So this is, of course, I really want you to remember this, that as you go forward, always remember this, that also this, that we have a short time on this planet, on this earth. So think about when you leave this earth, that you want to leave it in a better place than when you got here. Think about that. And anything that you decide to do in your future life, that you want to do it in terms of service to others and in making the world a better place. We can always just remember that. A lot of people, unfortunately, we live in a very materialistic society. And so it's kind of, well, you have to get rich, you have to make as much money as you can, you have to acquire as much property as you can, as much stuff as you can. But remember this, when you die, you can't take it with you, okay? You never see a hearse, the funeral, you see the hearse. You never see a hearse with a U-Haul attached to it. So, when you leave this earth, you want to leave a legacy of justice. Cesar Chavez, who, was he and I created the United Farm Workers. When he died, his annual salary was $6,000 a year. $6,000 a year. He really believed in living like the farm workers, living at the poverty level of the farm workers. But he left a legacy of justice. So think about that. When you pass away, you want to leave an inheritance to your children, a legacy of justice. Just remember that. And one more thing before we start our panel. I mentioned Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Well, I want to mention his wife, Coretta Scott King. And we hear a lot about Dr. King, not too much about Coretta. But I want to share a quote from Coretta Scott King. She said this: "We will never have peace in the world until women take power." But I have amended that quote because I have amended the quote to say we will never have peace in the world until feminists take power. Why? Because there are a lot of men here today with us that are also feminists, and they believe in supporting women and the reproductive rights of women, okay? So let's give it up for the men. And if wherever in the world, if there is a meeting somewhere, and there's a board, and people are sitting around the board, and decisions are being made, we have to work very hard to make sure that at least 50% of the people sitting on that board are feminists, okay? Because if they're not, they're gonna make the wrong decisions. So we have a lot of work to do, but I know that all of you here are capable of doing that, and we just remember not to give up. One more thing. I wanted to talk a little bit about, again, including our history. I would like to ask you to Google a map of the United States of America before 1848. What you will see in that map is that 1/3 of the United States was Mexico. 1/3. And so when they say to people of Mexican-American descent like myself, go back where you came from, we have to say, hey, we were here before the United States was the United States, okay? We were here first. And all of what you call the North American continent, South American continent, this belonged to the indigenous people of the United States of America, okay? The indigenous people, North American continent, South American continent. So when they criticize people that are at our border, that are seeking asylum or refugees here, we should say, you know what? These are the people that the land belonged to in the first place. You know, this was their land in the first place. So again, we have to think about how can, you know, we make our world like the song that John Lennon says, you know, imagine. Maybe someday we will see where there will be no borders, where all of the resources will be shared by everyone equally, like it was at the very beginning of time with our Homo sapiens, and so we can then stop wars. You know, how can we use everything that we have, our resources, to share with everyone so that nobody will be hungry, nobody will be homeless? We could do it. The United States of America, we are the richest country in the world. There is no reason why we should not have national health care. There's no reason why we shouldn't have free college education for all of you, okay? Free college education. And there is a way that we can achieve this, but I'll save that so we can talk about it on the panel, okay? So thank you very much. Okay, and I think we're gonna have our panel starting pretty soon. Are they here already? Okay, good, all right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Huerta. Let's give one more big round of applause, guys.
We are now going to transition into our panel time with Ms. Huerta. So will our student panel members please join us on stage?
All right, beautiful. Hi, everyone. I love the hype of this group. It's giving. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to introduce myself again. My name is Saleh. I'm a senior at Linwood High School, and I will be your panel moderator today. Before we get started, I'm going to be setting a few norms. Just 3, don't worry. One is please listen to learn. Please, like, we're here for a reason. 2, please stay seated the entire time. And 3, please be respectful to those around you and those on stage. So to begin the panel, we're going to start with the first question from one of our panel members, which will be coming from Hiba.
Hi, everyone. Ms. Huerta, how did being marginalized, not only as a Mexican American, but also as a woman, affect not only who you are, but also how you led during the movement?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Repeat. Yeah. How did being marginalized, not only as a Mexican American, but also as a woman, affect not only who you are, but also how you led during the movement?
So are we talking about how people that are marginalized, how they can push back? Okay, good. Well, I think that applies to everyone. The one thing that I have learned is that the way that we're able to push back or combat any kind of marginalization is that we just have to get together and organize. Because one person alone, it's very difficult to do anything. But if you have a group of people that are working together, then you can, make sure that not only that your voices will be heard. I like to say that even Jesus Christ, who was, could create miracles, right? He needed to have disciples to help him, okay? He couldn't do it by himself. So that's the main thing that we have to learn, that, in everything that we do, we get other people to help us do it, because otherwise it's very hard for them. And the main thing, too, is remember this, that sometimes people hold back because they feel, well, I don't have the experience, or I don't have the preparation, the education, but you shouldn't let that hold you back. The main thing is, if we want to accomplish something, we're doing it out of the goodness of our heart, that we're putting our energy and our time, and so we have to organize. And the way that we organize, the way Cesar Chavez and I learned to organize, is by having meetings in people's homes. We get a few people at a time, we talk about the issues, we talk about what we need to do to solve the issues, but then we say to people, you've got to commit to help make this happen. And if you don't, nothing's going to change. You can't sit back and wait for somebody to come in and do it for you. We've got to remember that we've got the power to make the changes that need to be made. And even if we don't know what exactly how we're going to be able to solve a problem, the thing is you have to take that first step. And if you make a mistake, that's okay, because you learn from your mistakes. But you can just take another path and do something in a different way. But you just have to keep going forward.
Thank you.
All right, so our next question will be coming from Nova.
Señora Huerta, what is your view on the future generation of leaders? What similarities and differences do you see comparing today's leaders to leaders from the past few decades?
Well, for all of you future leaders, you have a lot more assistance, you might say, than we had, because you have your cell phones, and you have your computers, and you have the internet, and so you can mobilize people very quickly. You can get information out there, and it's more transparent now. And we saw this happening with the big mobilizations after George Floyd was killed. And also the Me Too movement, that it went international, not just here in the United States, but it happened all over the world, because people were able to get that information. So that's really important. But you have to remember this, that we can march and we can protest and we can mobilize and bring people together, but whatever we want to happen has to be put into a law, okay? Because unless it's a law that can be implemented, that can be enforced, and that people can be held accountable, and then otherwise we can protest and bring up the issue, people know about it, but then everything stays the same, okay? So that's really important, and so that's why voting is important, because by voting, then we elect the people that are going to put what we want into a law, all right? And a lot of times, young people think, well, I marched and I protested, and that's going to take care of the issue. It doesn't. It doesn't. Because again, it's got to be put into a law. And that's why you have to remember that the voting is at the bottom of, and we're a democracy. And democracy only works if people are engaged and involved. And that's what's happening now, because a lot of young people don't vote. And when they don't vote, then we don't get the people that we need to represent us that are going to put those laws into effect. Okay, that's the main difference, I think, the most important thing.
Muchas gracias, señora Huerta.
You're welcome.
So sweet. Okay. Next question will be coming from Isabella.
Señora Huerta, what was the turning point of you becoming a feminist?
Well, I thought I was a feminist. My mother was, my parents divorced, and my mother was the main person in our family. She made all the decisions. She worked 2 jobs until she saved enough money to start her own business. And so, but then when it came to the issue of women's reproductive rights, women's right to abortion, then I have to say that I was confused because I, being raised a Catholic, thought, well, abortion is a sin, okay? But then when with my feminist friends like Gloria Steinem and Eleanor, they made me realize that a woman is the only person that should decide what to do with her body, okay? A woman is the only one. And again, in reading into some of the Catholic teachings, Sir Thomas Aquinas, who was one of the saints of the Catholic Church, said that a fetus is not a person until it's born, okay? So that helped me a little bit, to really understand the importance of women's reproductive rights. And to all the people that are out there, like, confused like I was, there was a Mexican president named Benito Juarez. I don't know if anybody ever heard of him. He was the president of Mexico when they got the independence from Spain. And he had a great saying. His saying, I'll say it in Spanish first, el respeto al derecho ajeno es la paz. Respecting other people's rights is peace, okay? So I had 11 children, okay? My daughter Juanita, a former teacher, she decided to have dogs and cats instead. So I respect my daughter's right, okay, not to have children. And I respect anybody's right to decide what they want to have children or not have children, okay? So I think that's the important thing. We say to people out there, respect other person's rights, and every woman has that right to decide to do with her body. And no religion or no politician should decide for a woman what to do with her body, okay? That's very important. And I want to say that this applies also to the issue of gay marriage. If someone falls in love with somebody of their own sex or marries somebody of their own sex, whose right is that? That's their human right, and nobody should decide for them what to do with their body. So if we can say that to people that are confused on the issue. And the other thing too, sometimes people vote on those issues. They call them the cultural wars, and politicians use that to divide people. And so you find people that are voting against their own self-interest instead of voting for somebody that's going to give us more health care, more money for daycare, more money for education. They will vote against themselves on the issues of abortion or gay marriage. And they use that to divide us. And so we have to say to people, remember that. What somebody else does with their body is their business and not yours. And vote for people that are going to really have your values, that are going to vote to get your community the resources that you need for yourself and your family. So thank you.
Thank you, Señora Huerta. That was...
All right. Thank you so much again for being willing to share with us today, Ms. Huerta. Do you have any final words or thoughts before we close today's panel?
What was that? I'm sorry to get that.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to be taking a question from one of the students in the audience. What role do you think the students here can play in the type of work your organization does? In other words, what can students do to help migrant farm workers against discrimination?
Well, I think the first thing is always remember that the farm workers who feed us every day are probably the most essential workers, but the most important people because they put the food on our table every single day. And we have to make sure that they have the rights that they deserve, that they have the right to form a union if they want to form a union, and that they are protected when it comes to COVID-19, that they get the protective equipment that they need, and that they are not looked down on, okay? Because remember this, during the pandemic, while a lot of people got to work from home, farm workers didn't. They had to be out there every single day picking the food to be able to feed us, all right? So I think just, think about farm workers as being, farm workers are really important. In fact, I like to say to people, if you had to go on a deserted island and you could only take one person with you, who would you take, a farm worker or an attorney? Yeah, one of my sons is an attorney. He doesn't like that joke. But just remembering how important they are and that we can respect them and make sure that they're respected, that they're treated well. And if maybe some of them, too, do not know that they're covered by a lot of federal laws. For instance, if they're not being paid the minimum wage, that they can report that. And even if they're undocumented, they are covered. If they're hurt on the job, even if they're undocumented, they should be protected, all right? To make sure you get that information out there to them.
Okay, so I'm going to be asking another question from one of the students in the crowd. What motivated you to continue persevering through the gender and racial discrimination you faced everywhere, even within our own United Farm Working Association?
How do we handle discrimination?
Let me reread the question again. What motivated you to continue persevering through the gender and racial discrimination you face everywhere, even within your own United Farm Workers Association?
Well, we have to keep working. Right now with my foundation, we're working mostly with the families of farm workers, and we're trying to organize people so that they can fight the discrimination, especially in our school systems that we have. In a lot of the farm worker areas, we had to sue our high school district because they had expelled 2,500 students in 1 year, and most of them were kids of color, okay? We won the lawsuit. From 2,500 expulsions, it's now down to 21. But we had to fight them. And the main thing is, as we're fighting, main thing is not to give up, because we know that we can win as long as we don't give up. So we just have to keep organizing, and there's so much work to do to enlighten people, to let them know that they have power, that they can change the conditions in their community. So, but we just have to keep organizing them and teaching them how to fight. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to have another question asked from one of the students up on the panel. So Jazzy, you can ask your question.
Hi, Ms. Huerta. There are still issues around discrimination that many people experience, and many people wonder whether direct activism is still the way to go. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we know that discrimination exists in all levels of our society, and that we have to start eliminating it. You know, Dr. Jim Lawson, who worked with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to teach them nonviolence, said, we've got to dismantle the systems of oppression in our country little by little. But that means that we all have to work at doing this, because racism is so embedded in our society. And of course, I mentioned before about how one of the best places that we can do this is in our educational system. But we're seeing a big pushback on that, because some people, they know that the way that they can keep their power is by keeping people divided and they can keep their power by keeping people ignorant. So that is, I think, the big fight that we have right now in our country. There was a Spanish philosopher who said this, and I want you to remember this. He said, he wrote a book called Revolution of the Masses, and the thesis of his book was, if the people are not educated, then the corrupt and the greedy will keep the power in a country, and they will be the ones that will govern. The greedy and the corrupt and the powerful, you know, they will govern a country. And so that's why it's so important that we fight really, really hard for education and teach people you know, where racism came from, so we can get rid of it. So in some respects, you say, well, it's really bad maybe to talk about these issues, but think about it like a sore, right? Because we know what racism has always been with us in all my lifetime, but unless it's a sore that you have, and when it gets really infected and it starts hurting, then that's when people pay attention. Well, people are hurting right now, and people are paying attention, and that's why we know that now that we can identify it, okay? People are talking about it, so now is the time that we can get rid of it. And it's not going to be easy, because it means that all of us have to work to make it happen. And remember this too, that when we think about who's governing our country, okay, 90% of the wealth of the United States is in the hands of 10% of the wealthy corporations and wealthy families. Can you imagine that? 90% of the wealth, of the richness of our country is controlled by 10% of the wealthy families. And unfortunately, some of those wealthy people are the ones that are putting money in to keep the ignorance going in our society. But that should not really make us despair, because remember this, we, the people, we are the many. We have more people, I don't care how much money they have, we, the people, we are the ones that if we engage, especially in voting, you know, in doing the democracy work, we can win. But we got to make sure that we get everybody engaged, all right? That everybody needs to participate, needs to volunteer, because that's the way that we counter all the money. And the other way, and I believe you did this here in the state of Washington first, but like in California, we've passed laws that the millionaires have to pay more money in taxes, okay? And so in California, if you make $1 million, you have to pay 3% more in state taxes, $500,000, 2% more, $250,000, 1% more. By making the millionaires pay more money, we have brought in billions of dollars for education in California. And I think you've done that here also in Washington State. So we have to remember that we got to make the millionaires and the billionaires, they got to pay their share of taxes. And because that way, we can have the money for education that we need, for free college education, more money for our teachers, right? More support for our teachers, because education, like Franklin Delano Roosevelt said during World War II, they wanted to take money out of the libraries and out of education, and he said, we will not take one dime out of education to pay for the war or libraries, because education is the soul of our country, okay? Education is the soul of our country, and so that's why we have to fight very, very hard to erase the ignorance, because the ignorance breeds hatred, and hatred results in people getting killed because they're Mexicans, or people getting killed because they're Jews, or because they're Muslims, you know, or because they're African Americans or Asians. So that is our job, all of us, to erase the ignorance so that we can really have a true democracy.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so the next question from one of our students will be coming from Lizzie.
Hola, Ms. Huerta. What was your favorite part about educating people, and which piece of yours did you feel was the most inspiring?
Well, I think, again, we talked about educating people and education, but I think the next step is to do organizing. And so that means that all of us can actually be organizers. And to be an organizer, it's not hard. It just takes a little bit of courage. I call it building up your emotional fortitude, because I'm going to ask all of you to please help us. You know, we have, right now in 2022, this year, we have elections going on. And so we have a lot of people that are running for office, people running for school boards, city councils, boards of supervisors, state legislature, and the Congress. And so I want to ask all of you, please get involved. Now, many of you may not be old enough to vote yet, but you can volunteer on a campaign and to go out there for a candidate and learn the basics of democracy, which is getting people to vote, getting people to register to vote, getting people to vote. Going out there, knocking on doors, talking to strangers, to people that you don't know, and asking them to please participate in voting. Or if they haven't become citizens yet, encourage them to become citizens, because the only way that we're going to be able to counter the ignorance in these politicians that are breeding hatred is to, number one, get good people elected to office. And I hope that some of you will consider running for office too also, okay? Thinking of yourselves. And the other thing, and this is not even on anybody's agenda right now, but we have to come to the point and to the day where people do not need $1 million to run for office, where the elections can be paid for by the taxpayers, and so that people don't have to have a lot of money to run for office, okay? So just think of right now, because our democracy is threatened. We all saw that on January the 6th, and we still have some politicians that are talking a lot of trash out there, you know, that we want to get those people out of office and want to get good people into office. And I know here in Washington State, like California and Oregon, we're in pretty good shape. But if you have relatives in Florida, if you have relatives in Texas, okay, you know, if you have those relatives out there, call them and tell them, please vote. Please get your friends to vote, because we cannot have these people that have so much hatred that they're always attacking people like they are attacking women in Texas or attacking gay people in Florida. We shouldn't have people like that in office, or people that are trying to suppress the vote of people of color, you know, or people that are attacking women, criminalizing women, you know, the way that they're doing right now. We've got to stop. Basically, let me say this. During World War II, the United States, you know, my generation was called the greatest generation, because people went, and I'm saying many of you probably had relatives that went to war to stop Hitler and to stop the Nazis, you know, who killed millions of Jews and gypsies and disabled people and gay people. And so my father, my brothers, they were in World War II also. So now it's a different kind of a fight that we have. It's fascism, like what Hitler was, a Nazi. That's fascism. But we have it here in our country right now. We have fascism in our country. And you are the army that has to stop it, okay? You are the ones that have got to go out there and stop the fascism. And the only way that we can do that is by participating and getting people to vote. Because a democracy, that's the only way that it works. And it's like a football game. If you have one team that shows up and the other one doesn't, who's going to win? The team that shows up, okay? So our team has to show up, and we have to start really getting rid of anybody out there that's a racist or that's a sexist, a misogynist, or a homophobe. We have to either educate them, try to get them to change their mind, and if they can't, at least make sure that we have enough people to counter them, okay? So we can be the winners, not them, not the haters.
Muchas gracias, señora Huerta.
Okay, everyone. So we're going to have one final question from our panelists, which will be coming from Anthony.
Hello, Ms. Huerta. My question for you is, how did you get interested into farm workers' rights?
Pardon me?
How did you get interested in farm workers' rights?
Well, actually, I was we belonged to another organization before the United Farm Workers. It was called Community Service Organization, and one of the first things that we did was go out there and knock on doors to get people to register to vote. And I came to a house where there were a farm worker family, and they had orange crates for furniture in cardboard boxes. There was a dirt floor in their house, a dirt floor. The children were barefooted and obviously malnutrition. And then as a teacher, some of my students, and they were the little Okie students, the ones that came in from the Southwest, and again, they were very poor. And when I would go to my principal to try to get a voucher for shoes for them, or to get extra lunch tickets, whatever, he gave me a hard time. So that's when I decided I had learned how to organize. I want to just, quit teaching and become an organizer to help the farm workers out. Because I knew how hard they worked, but how little they paid. And so that made my decision. So, but in that organization also, the community service organization, we passed a lot of laws in California that people could get their driver's license in Spanish, that they could vote in Spanish language, and then we passed another law that many people still benefit from today, and that is if you were a legal resident of the United States, if you had your green card, that you could get public assistance, aid to the blind, aid to the disabled, aid to needy children also. So today, there's many millions of people out there that get that kind of assistance. And that's what the good thing about becoming an activist is that once you get on that road of activism, you find things out. Like when you go to people's homes to talk to them, you find out what they're thinking, you find out what they need. And so that's kind of the first rule of organizing, just getting out there and not being afraid to talk to people, not being afraid to talk to people to convince them. So we have a lot of things now that we have to convince people about. So I think you might say that you're out there planting the seeds in people's minds, right? And encouraging them also to become active. Because right now, we know that the situation that we're in, if we don't all become the warriors, and the messengers for peace and justice, we could lose our democracy. That's how fragile it is right now. We could lose our democracy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again for being willing to share with us today, Ms. Huerta. Do you have any final words or thoughts before we close today's panel?
Yes, but I would like to ask all of us to stand up. I would like the audience to stand up. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I know you know the answer. Okay, I'm going to ask you two questions, all right? The first question I'm going to ask you, who's got the power? I want you to say, we've got the power. And then the second question is, what kind of power? And the answer is people power, okay? So let's do it all together, all right? Let's go. Who's got the power?
We got the power.
Some people aren't sure, okay. Okay, let's do that one more time. Never forget that you have the power, okay? And we have to use our power to save our democracy, to stop the fascism, and to make sure that we educate people and that we get everybody out to vote. Okay, let's go one more time. Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
People power.
So are we going to use our people power to go out there and save our democracy, to educate people, to get rid of the ignorance and get rid of the hate? What do we say? ¿Se puede o no se puede? All right, let's do it all together. Let's all do a unified clap. Sí se puede. Let's go. Sí se puede. Thank you. So thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Let's give Ms. Huerta one more round of applause. All right, so we have just a few announcements before we transition into our sessions. For our students participating in Ramadan, we will have the auditorium open as a food-free option available to you during lunch. If you need help finding a place to pray, please feel free to contact any of the adults and they will help you find an open area. The Radical Imagination session has been canceled. For those of you who have this session, you are free to pick a different session. The session for You're a Leader and Why has been moved to the gym instead of the green room. And then for the students on the Superintendent Advisory Committee, please hang back in the auditorium. We will be having a quick meeting just during our first session, so you will be late to your first session, which is totally fine. All right, students. We will now begin transitions into our morning sessions, so please check your name tags to see what sessions you will be in and where they are located. If you need help finding your designated area, please feel free to ask any adult, and we will see you back at the gym for lunch at 11:45.
Screaming peace at the same time. All the corruption and justice, the same crimes. Always a problem if we do or don't fight and we die. We don't have the same right. What is a gun to a man that surrenders? What's it gonna take for someone to?
You're sending me that.
How do I send you the other stuff? How do I send you this video?
Take your PowerPoint out of full screen.
Ah.
Did you set it so you have two screens? Oh. You made it so you have two. Okay. Yeah, that's what'll do it for you.
I don't do that well. How you guys doing? No. Listen. Now listen. I don't do this well because you guys is way better than this. You need to know what's in your body. You got carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen in your body. And the cool thing about it, a lot of us wear these shirts that talk about how beautiful the skin is, how beautiful, bright you are. I know I'm bright. And I'm okay. I'm glistening right now. But what I have in my body, we all have it. And we don't talk enough about it. And it's called melanin. But you quick to put your melanin shirt on and say you melanin popping. But melanin is so much deeper than just your skin. It flows throughout your whole body. It's the energy that the earth gives you on a daily basis. If we come in spaces with no energy, spaces need us. What? Spaces need us. So I always tell you all, whenever you get into a space, you bring all your energy and nothing less because it needs it. So always remember that. So once again, how are we doing today? That's what I'm talking about. First of all, this is your first annual. This is like big. What? Y'all are like, this is big. And let me go on and introduce myself. My name is Rashad. They call me Brother Rashad. I got my own consulting business that I work with young people such as yourself. It's called Relevant Engagement. Here's my shirt right here. And this is the compound I just told you about. I don't speak about it, I be about it. So yes, that's what I do. From here, I work with incarcerated youth, and I work with young people who have an IEP or a 504 plan. So I'm youth-driven. This is my purpose, not my passion. So just know that. When you find your purpose, you on a whole nother move. Somebody asked me back in the back, this is gonna go great. I said, no, this is gonna go excellent. This is what this is gonna go excellent. And I got 45 minutes with you, 40 minutes. I'm gonna let you know right now, because we got so much energy, we need to learn how to work together. That's what we have to do today. And so I know we're a little spread out. I'm usually in the room where I have, classrooms where I'm real close to you. We work in little groups. And this is a little bigger auditorium, but you don't scare me. It's all good. And if you sitting there quiet, it's all good too. I'm not tripping. If you sitting there talking, I'm a trip because I got the mic and I call you out and I can see you. And if you on your phone, I'm not tripping either. Never at all. Because I know I come from greatness. My ancestors were great, and they told me this is what I'm supposed to do. So if I just reach one of you today, I'm good. I would like to reach two of you, maybe three. But if one of you get my message or get whatever I'm putting down, we good. And if you ever want to get in contact with me, I will leave you my number and email and everything. Everybody good with that? Okay. All right. Well, I'm from this way. I'm from Tacoma. Anybody from Tacoma? Crickets. Okay. That's okay. I'm from this way. I stay out there in that Puyallup area. And so once again, I tell you, you don't scare me. I got 3 kids. I got 2 high schoolers and a middle schooler. That's what I got, 16, 14, and 12. And my 12-year-old is my girl. So I love my women. Oh, I love them. I love how you guys are just so strong with yours right now. And my baby girl is a chocolate, I call her chocolate drop. So all my chocolate drops out there, just say thank you for being you and being so authentic. Right now, my daughter has a problem being loud in school. That's what the teacher calls it, loud. I said, no, baby, you just bring energy. That's what you do. So we'll fix the loudness. But my boys, same way. I got, like I said, 16-year-old who's driving now, which praying every day. And then I got my middle school. And we're out there in Puyallup area, which is, somewhat trying to get diverse, but it still has its remnants of racism. So we're dealing with that as well. So we just chilling. But what I'm about to do with you today, this is important, because you just had a beautiful keynote speaker just talk about the importance of organizing. It just lined up perfectly with what I was about to do with you today. We just lined up perfectly. So what I was going to do with you today is because I do so much work with young people, and you'll be amazed of how many of our ancestors were so young at your age doing some amazing work, who are putting it down. And one of my favorite ones, we always talk about Dr. King, and when we talk about Dr. King, we always go into I Have a Dream, where he had this quote that I live by, and this was his quote. His quote was, the 2 most dangerous things in this world is conscientious stupidity and sincere ignorance. That's a 2. So we walk around thinking that it's guns and killing each other and so forth, or, anybody who look like they tough, there ain't nothing. Conscientious stupidity, sincere ignorance is dangerous. And he talked about how students need to be able to now know that it is important for you to work together and really to start to voice your opinions and voice what needs to happen within change. And at a young age, 15, 14, Dr. King was already doing that. Angela Davis, already doing that. Already. So it's those type of individuals that you really want to connect with, who I connected with and really brought into my own energy of working with young people and get you to understand how to organize and what it is important, how it important it is for you to really feel uncomfortable and get into a circle and really just start to voice whatever matter that comes to mind and see if everybody jumps on. Because you'll be amazed of how those organizations even ran. And it ran by our women, which we don't highlight enough. Our black women are the pillars of the United States. And I got evidence for that. So if you want to just pull something up, we can pull it up. I'm good. But I'm going to tell you right now, they organize a lot that we don't highlight. A lot. Now, our men probably get all the accolades a little bit, but the women organizing, come on. We don't talk about it enough. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you form groups. And I'm going to show you how important it is for you to get into these groups, and within a short amount of time, you got to come up with some type of injustice, and you all got to agree on it. This is what happens. When you organize, it has to come as a unit. We work in units. A lot of our history comes from units. It comes from the village. It comes from the community. It comes from cohort models. If you don't know, a lot of schools are trying to use cohort models for particular student populations, which are students of color. Why? Because that's how we operate. That's how we get down. You find a group of students of color talking, oh, it's loud. But it's good loud. It's energy. And we communicate it. So you're about to do that today. You're about to get into groups, and I'm about to give you a task. And we got to have, 30 minutes, I think it is? We got about 30 minutes. And that should be enough time. Usually I have you do it on a piece of paper and make a big old board. But I heard you all have little notebooks, correct? You need a note taker. Every community organization has some type of note taker. You need to come up with some type of action. Let me show you. This is what you're going to be doing. And it comes down to your sacrifice. And I say movement versus moment because that's what Dr. King said. There was only one thing that stays in the way between a movement and a moment. One thing, and that's sacrifice. What you willing to give up? What are you willing to give up? That's what it comes down to when you talk about a movement. Right here, this is a beautiful moment. It's the first annual. Everybody got their cameras out. Everybody's taking pictures. You got the people interviewing the speakers. It looks good. I'm going to be impressed if it keeps going for the 4th year, 5th year, 6th year. So now you got my attention. But if you do this for a moment and this school district just wants to look good, shame on them because you're being used right now. And if you don't say nothing about it, they'll use y'all behind. For a good photo shoot, they'll use you for some money. They may interview some of y'all. They may tell you, come on, get an interview. Tell us about the summit. And then nothing else happens. And you sit back and you're like, damn, where's that summit at? Because it was for a moment. But when you create a movement, you tell them, hey, where's the budget at? We doing this again next year? Who's the next speaker coming up? What we got going on? Where's the other student panel coming at? See, that's where y'all come in. Because we adults, we doing enough, but when your voice is heard, oh, it goes down. Oh, it goes down. You see people running. So I'm going to tell you, that's what you need to do. You create movements. That's what you're about to do, create a movement. And there's a difference between an activist and an advocate. As you can see, both need them. You both need them. You need your activist, you need the advocate. I changed my word to accomplice. I don't want no more advocates, no activists. I want me an accomplice. I want somebody to build a plan and go tear that joint down. And if you get caught, you tell on me. And if I get caught, I tell on you, and we still good. Because we made a team. Ain't about snitching. If you snitching, well, let me stop. Let me stop. So, you got your boycott, you got your protest. You probably already know this, but as you can see, a protest is that organized public demonstration, something that is strongly just objecting against anything. It's a statement, some type of action. It's a protest. Who's been a part of a protest before? Okay, good. Now, a boycott. This is when you withdraw from anything. You withdraw from things that are taken. This is what I tell you. This is what I say. That's taking your money. Anything taking your money, you boycott. But you ain't getting none of my stuff no more. I don't need no applause for this, but I'm 7 years clean on alcohol March 15th because that alcohol was killing me, and I knew it was killing me. It's like I had a boycott. Leave me alone. You ain't getting my money no more. That's it. Or you've refused to cooperate on anything, participate in any type of policy or even event or even clothing. If you know something that is hurting, something that you really believe in, don't use it. You boycott it. You get away from it. So, So this is what I'm going to do. I need to break you up in groups. If you're already around a group, that's all good. But you need to be in groups because this is now your committee. This is your organized committee. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to get in your groups. You're going to create you a boycott and a protest through some type of injustice. You need to do something with the injustice that you all agree upon. So if it's the environment, let it be. If it's animal cruelty, let it be. But it has to be one, and you have to come to agreement. That's most challenging at times, but you have to come to agreement. The second one is you have to have some type of call and response for your injustice as well. Something that you're going to be speaking out loud. No justice, no peace. Something that people can hear you, because we got to hear you. So number 3 is you're going to then have to have some type of like a hashtag. Something that speaks to that injustice, which is always cool. And if you have some type of song, something that brings some type of awareness to that through your song, you can make up a song. I had students make up a poem and present their poem because they had some type of creativity within their group. So it was quick. Anything like that. And if you have some artists in here, draw a picture. Draw pictures. But we really need to make some type of injustice. Does this make sense? Raise your hand. Good. And if it don't make sense, talk to the person next to you that raised their hand. Everybody good? Anybody like music? I like music. So I'm going to play a little bit of music. Music is important. It's very important. Just know that. That's something that we need in our system as well. Can everybody find a group? Everybody get a group? Now, when I say move, that means you got to move. And see, this is what gets me. You guys will be on, you on your phones and whatnot. You guys just want to sit down. Now I want you to communicate. Now I want you to talk. So get a group, get a group. Get a group. Oh. Everybody got a group? Everybody got a group? Everybody good? All right, so remember, you got to make your injustice. You first got to have your injustice. If you can put it on the top of the sheet, it doesn't matter, but make that injustice where everybody agrees. And then what you're going to do is you're going to create your boycott. What are you willing to give up because of this injustice? So maybe you put a line right there in the middle after you do your injustice. Put boycott. What are you willing to give up because of that injustice? What things are you saying no to? What are you saying no to? And what are you going to protest? Where are you going to be at? Wherever you lead your protest at. Would it be at the schools? Would it be at a business? Where would your protest be? And then you want to make your hashtag, and then you also want to create some type of song. You want to have a song that's connected to your protest. Everybody good? All right, go ahead and get started. I'm going to give you, before 10 minutes is up, before we're done with class, I'm going to let you know. All right, so let's see how fast we can do this. We can do this. organizers. Hey, how was that? How was it? It was good? Yes. Oh, look, I walked around. You all had some powerful subjects. What? Homophobia? You want to get these schools, let them know about their practices with teachers, just restorative justice practices. You got food injustice. What? Man, you got people y'all ready to write poems. And let me just tell you, because we only got 10 minutes, I would love to hear, do we have any group that just want to just talk about their injustice? Oh, go ahead. Mm. Come on, y'all. Come on. Beautiful. Within this short time frame, that's what I love. Anybody else? Oh, go ahead. Mm. 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 Come on. Mm. I love it. Mm. You students is amazing. Good job. Good job. We already got activists. We got accomplices in here. Accomplices. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Mm. Look at that. Good job. Creative. I love it. Now I got to get you guys out of here to your next one. But I just want to share my testimony when I did this work, just because I want you all to know that you did something here. Once again, this could be a moment or a movement. Now, I hope that you all wrote this down because you need to take this with you. And one thing that I did was I looked at the food injustice, and I looked at how a lot of our babies, a lot of our young people are acting today in school. And we always want to go to behavior, and I truly believe that that may be a piece of it. But the biggest injustice that I think we don't talk about is the food injustice. I really think that we're eating some things that are not good for our bodies. And I think that's making you become irritable. I think it's making you become, your skin's probably breaking out more. There's things with, people are, you're growing faster. Our young women are growing faster physically, and our young boys are looking different these days. So this is just some truth that I've been doing more research on. And with that being said, I became plant-based. I boycotted the whole meat industry. I'm plant-based now for 6 years. And it's probably the best feeling that I can go through right now. We're just saying that, you know what? I'm going to cut that out. I'm not going to use it no more. I'm not going to eat it no more. And my testimony is that my skin cleared up. I would say that, think my nails started to grow. My mental clarity is better. I get better rest. My digestive system is better. There's so many things that are so much more complete or feel much better just because I made that choice and sacrifice and say, you know what, I'm going to give this up. Now, what you just put down on your piece of paper, it may sound good right now. But if you act on it and see where it can really go, you'll probably be more empowered and to do a little bit more than what you're doing right now. And not saying you're not doing nothing. That's not it. But within a 20-minute time span that we just had with each other, you just put together an organized plan with a group of individuals that you probably just met or some individuals that you've known for some time. But you just put together a plan. At least you have the framework. And now you have to put some of the meat on it, in which may be action, and see where it can go. Because you best believe, you're right, the disproportionality of young black and brown students in discipline in our ISS rooms, it still goes on to this day. It's still going on. We're going to have that until we see some type of action with our students. So with all that being said, students, I just want to say thank you. This is your first annual. This is your first annual. And I've been a part of a summit that I've been doing for 12 years. And I know how tough it can be. But if you're not consistent, this is for nothing. And I'm going to tell that to the adults. Don't use these kids. Don't use these babies. Don't do that. Don't do it. You find a budget for the next 5, 6 years, 7 years, just like you somehow found a budget to do this now, and you keep doing it. And you demand it. And if you are sophomores in here, you are juniors, even freshmen, you make sure you come back next year and be like, hey, where's that conference that we were at? Are we doing it again this year? When's that happening? Because I like to be a part of that again. And then you find a way to be a part of it. You start to find presenters. You start to find people that you want to come and talk to you about your history. You start to see people, you start to ask people to come in and talk about, different religions. You start to bring specialists in here to give you more education on these topics that you're talking about. That's what you do. And so you start to control the narrative. So you are leaders. You are. And I damn sure know you accomplices. And I know you're ready to build it and tear it down with me. So with that being said, I'm Brother Rashad, and I approve this message, and I want you guys to enjoy the rest of your day. Throw the music back on. Throw the music back on. Oh, you said 40 after, right? I just want to make sure. All right.
Okay, welcome in everyone. Okay, should I start?
We're just going to wait a couple more seconds for everybody to find their seats.
Welcome back, everyone. Have you all been enjoying the conference so far? Yeah. I don't think you heard me. Have y'all been enjoying the conference so far?
You may have noticed we did an MC switch for this afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Lopez. I'm a junior at Meadowdale High, and
my name is Jasmine Pennerman, and I'm a junior at Mountain Lake Terrace High School, and we're your afternoon MCs. As we prepare for the second half, we would just like to remind everyone of our norms. Number one, respect the space we are in and the reason we're here. We're here to learn and grow together. This is a school-sponsored field trip, and you must stay on site for the entire conference. No food or drink in the auditorium, and masks are required all day.
Next, I want to give a warm welcome to the stage, Mr. Christian Page. Christian Page is an Emmy-nominated spoken word poet and professional speaker and educator who speaks at schools, conferences, and events across the U.S. Mr. Page has spoken to thousands of people and loves to work with young adolescents who are committed to doing good in the world. Mr. Page is a first-generation college graduate and an Act 6 scholar. He is passionate about community, anti-racism, equity, and empowerment. He has spent his entire career in and around education, advocating for historically marginalized populations and working to create equitable environments where young people can thrive. Mr. Page was born and raised in Tacoma, Washington, where he currently teaches and lives. He believes that our voice is our most powerful tool and encourages others to use it to interrupt, empower, and teach. Mr. Page often uses one word to summarize himself. He says, "I am just somebody who wants the community to work for everybody." So please give a warm welcome to Mr. Christian Page.
Y'all get up one more time for the MCs. Oh, peace and love, everybody. Hey. Hey. Man, I don't know if y'all know this or not. Somebody's like, who is this weird dude and why is he waving at everybody? Can I tell y'all a secret about you before I tell you about who I am? Whether you all are aware of it or not, you all are my family. Right? For sure. And I'll tell you something that, I love y'all and there's nothing that you can do about it. And here's the reason why I start with that or why I say that first. In addition to all of the identities that I have, all of the names and gold titles and all of that stuff that would come along with it, one of the most important things in my world right now is that I'm a father. Right? I won't tell y'all how old I am. I'll save that for later because somebody's wondering. I still get the mean girls treatment. Like sometimes I pull up in a high school and they're like, he doesn't even go here, right? I hope that this lasts forever. But I'm a father, right? And you all are somewhere between 14 and 18 years old is what I'm assuming. Yeah, what's up with you, family? Somewhere between 14 and 18 years old. And you're equidistant from me as you are from my children. And if I do my job right, when my son or my daughter is sitting in one of your seats, or is one of these seats, one of you will be standing up here. I'm a really big and firm believer in the idea of the seventh generation. Have y'all heard this before? I got to go holler at one of your history teachers. But this idea that I do the work for the 7 generations that have come before me, I honor my ancestors in everything that I do, and I do work for the 7 generations that will come after me. Right? And when I think about that, or the weight that I have to carry on my shoulders, or the idea of who's with me and who's not, or right, like when I'm making legacy decisions, it changes the way that I see the world. And so I'm here today, right, because I believe you all will be my children's teacher. And if I don't do this right effectively, right, then we might be experiencing some of the same things that I've experienced in my lifetime. So whether you know it or not, y'all are my family. Can I say, hey, family? All right, y'all got the picture. So, if you all have not noticed by now, right, like I'm not your traditional speaker, right? There's a lot of folks who pull up in the spot, and there's a space for them, right? Like I won't speak ill of these folks, but I call them spaghetti speakers. Have y'all had spaghetti before? Right, and like no matter where you go, like spaghetti's kind of the same. Right, like it's like noodles, and then it's like positive. Right, like if you're a vegetarian, right, there's no meat on it. But like the thing that makes up spaghetti, or the reason why you would pay $30 as opposed to making it at home, is the sauce, right? And so oftentimes we see this like the same kind of presentation where someone shows up and they have 3 points and they name this, and there's a couple PowerPoint slides, and then we walk home with those things, and sometimes we just leave them on the shelf. Have y'all experienced that speaker before? Did y'all fall asleep during that assembly? Okay, good. Y'all are good students, right? I hear you. I'm not that person, right? I would refer to myself as a gumbo speaker. Have y'all ever had gumbo before? Right? So my grandmother is from Shreveport, Louisiana. And she makes I'm about to go see her this weekend, right? And her gumbo is crazy good. And I believe, right, it's because she makes her gumbo in community, right? Don't be in my grandma's way in the kitchen. You will get put out, right? But we're hanging out, we're playing spades, we're playing dominoes. There's a lot of people around, right? You don't just make gumbo for one family. Y'all never had gumbo before, right? But the idea is, right, everybody gets to put their energy into what's happening in the kitchen, and you can taste community in the food when it comes out. So what I'm offering you is I don't have a 3-point speech today or anything of that nature. I really just want to tell y'all some stories, perform some art for you, tell you some things that I've learned along the way as you all are getting ready to step into your space as leaders, and some of you are already holding that mantle. And I want to basically give you some, can I keep it a buck with y'all? Somebody's like, what does that mean? I just want to give y'all game on things that I've learned throughout my journey, right, with the hopes that you can skip some of the hurdles that I've had. Does that feel okay? Does that feel solid? There wasn't really a plan B, so I'm glad you all are rolling with this. Couple of things right before we get started. So again, my name is Christian Page. My pronouns are he, him, or your boy. I am an Emmy-nominated poet. I'm a speaker. I'm an educator. I'm still in the classroom teaching. I do a lot of really cool things. But if I boil myself down, just like my bio has said, is that I'm just somebody who wants community to work for everybody. And I feel like that's the mark of a leader as opposed to a manager. We'll talk real spicy about that later. But right, our job as leaders is to take care of people. Oftentimes we have this oriented towards some kind of task, right? But if I'm a great leader, I'm creating community and creating a space where people feel like they belong. Do y'all know who Dr. Martin Luther King is? Yeah. I thought I was really finna have to holler at your history teachers. Dr. King put forward this idea called the beloved community. And my favorite thing about this idea of the beloved community is a place where people feel warm, where they feel respected, where they feel like they matter, where they can bring their identities to the door, right? And they don't have to leave anything behind. And the beautiful thing about the beloved community is that it exists anywhere that we create it, right? It doesn't have to be in one building or in one space, right? And so I think if we do our job effectively as leaders, we'll create the beloved community everywhere that we decide to go. So that's all I really want to talk to you all about today. Right, I have one more precursor before we get started. Someone's like, hurry up already. I'm from Tacoma. Is anybody else in here from Tacoma? Right, I heard some groans. I heard y'all. Right, I'm from Tacoma. You will always see me wearing something from Tacoma. I'm so proud of the place that I've come from. And the reason being is because, right, there have been people who loved it through all of the groans that the audience made, right, during this time. I grew up in what would be considered a rough or tough environment, right? And when I stepped into high school, y'all still wondering how old I am. I stepped into high school in 2007, and someone's like, ooh, let me do the math. I walked in, and the nation had deemed all 7 of our comprehensive high schools dropout factories, right? It was under 60% graduation, meaning I could stand in a room of my peers, and only 6 or 10 of us were going to graduate. And if you were a Black or Latino male, right, your chances were lower. So when I went to an assembly, the freshman section would be packed, the sophomore section would dwindle down, the junior section, right, would be and at the senior section, we could stretch out and lay down if we wanted to. And one of my favorite things about Tacoma, and this is the reason why I love this community more than any of the other communities I've gone to, and this situation, I don't know if you all know how this kind of business works. Either your school gets taken over by the state, or somebody hires a consultant, or we go out and try to purchase something new. And what Tacoma did was that they looked at the students who were already in their classroom and said, you've taken inventory of what's broken. We want to come alongside you to fix it. Over the course of this time period, right, there was a small idea that started in the garage. It was a tutoring program, right? And it became a 501c3. It's a program called Act 6. They created partnerships with 5 of the top colleges across the state and sent 5 students each year on a full ride, full need scholarship. All of those students came back to impact their community. And if we tell this, I'm telling this story a little bit post-hand, right? But from 2007 to 2017, we went from being a dropout factory to being a model for education in the nation. Our graduation rates went from sub 60, right, or less if you were Black or Latino male in that space, to being above 91%, and the gap between Black and white students closed. And there was no fancy title or gold name tag or anybody who showed up to save the day. It was the people of that community who decided they were going to take inventory of what was broken and change it. I'm glad that I get to be one of those people. And what my hope is that you all love your community arbitrarily just because it's yours, and that if there's any change that you want to see here, that you're the people willing to impact it. Y'all done with the precursors at this point? Ooh, y'all fell asleep already. I know it's after lunch. You done with the precursors at this point? Yeah. All right. Can I tell y'all some fun stories about my life? Yeah. Right? All right. So I'll tell you this first story. The story takes place when I was 14 years old. Right? I was walking into high school. This is the same 07 at this point. And I was not standing in the body that I'm currently standing in. Right? At this time, I was maybe 5'1". It was about I was maybe 120 pounds if it was raining outside. I'm pigeon-toed, so when I walk, my feet face each other. Y'all probably gonna spend the rest of the time looking at my feet. And I was a little bit awkward. Have y'all ever felt a little bit awkward before? Right? All right, you don't have to admit to it, it's fine. But I walked into high school, and one of the coolest things that's ever happened in my life at this point happened to me when I was walking in. Is that I ended up making the varsity basketball team. Are there any ball players in the room? Right? Okay, I see you, Roberto. There's a couple. Right? And it was really significant at that time because Tacoma was like a hub for basketball. Right? Like at that time, do you all know who Isaiah Thomas is, maybe? Right? And Isaiah Thomas, he was playing there, and I don't know if you all know the name like Abdul Gaddy or Avery Bradley or any of these guys, right? One of them was LeBron James's teammate. One of them is an NBA champion, right? Like these folks got rings. And so I got the chance to play at the same time that they were playing, and I'm 14, and I'm how tall? Ooh, y'all been paying attention. I weighed how much? Right? If it was raining outside, and what's going on with my feet? All right, and I was a little bit, all right, y'all did your homework, right? So I made the team, and I felt really good about this. And I don't know if you all have ever had an accomplishment that made you walk a little bit different. Y'all being fake today, right? You don't know what I'm talking about. You have and so there was a point in my life where I kind of walked a little bit timid, right? And I made this basketball team, and I started walking like this. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Okay, y'all not being fake today. I appreciate it, right? And I made the basketball team, and I was for the colloquially, I was feeling myself, right? And I had this idea. Ooh, this is where it turns into a freeform movie. I had this idea that there was a young lady who lived up the street from me. Somebody's like, I know where this is going. I've had a crush on her for majority of my life, right? And I'm like, I think I'm gonna ask her to go to homecoming with me, right? Somebody's like, oh, this is crazy, right? And you all have been to the assemblies maybe where somebody rolls out the paper and it's like a whole thing, and you all have seen this movie before. So, right, I had a really, really dope leadership teacher, and she let me have the microphone at the beginning of the assembly. And my idea was that I was going to perform a poem to ask her to go to homecoming with me. Right? So somebody's like, yo, this can go really, really good, or it can go really, really bad, right? Right? Do you all want to hear how this went? Yeah. Okay. Y'all invested now. Somebody woke up from lunch. Right? So I was how tall? 5'1". Right? And I weighed how much? And my feet did what? Right? And I was a little bit awkward. Right? And so I walk up to the microphone, all 5'1", 120 pounds, all awkward and pigeon-toed. I take a deep breath, and this is what I say to open the assembly. I say, if you didn't leave me lost for words, there's a million things that I could say. See, I could compliment your smile, or I might ask about your day, or I could get up the courage to finally come out and say that I hate it when you blink. Because that's one less second that I get to stare into your eyes, and I hope that when you think that all of your thoughts are similar to mine, because I'm thinking about you, I just hope that you're thinking about me, and how that space between your fingers are where mine is supposed to be, because I want to hold your hand everywhere for everyone to see, and I want my boys to make fun of me so that I can be embarrassed. And I want you to take me home so that I can meet your parents. And I want someone to get on Facebook and record this and share this because I could care less about a reputation if I had you to cherish. Because see, your beauty in its truest form with silk skin and the purest eyes, and you can't help but make me smile. With your elegant shape and beautiful style, every time that you come around, I just hope that you'd stay for a while. And if you didn't leave me lost for words, I would tell you that when you speak, the world around me stands still and only your voice matters. And I get nervous and I have butterflies and my heart starts to pattern. I get to forget my name and my thoughts get all scattered. I get to envy any man that's ever left your heart shattered. Because see, I'd pick up the pieces and I'd put them back together in hopes that maybe one day you can get to know me better than my dream can come true and me and you can be together. Because I feel like Prince Charming when I listen to the sweet syllables coming from Cinderella. So if the glass slipper fits and these feelings are real, then a prince and a princess should finally seal the deal. And we live happily ever after on a castle on a hill. And look back at this day when I told you how I feel. Will you go to homecoming with me? Right? Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So 2 things, right? Y'all don't know if this went good or bad, but I appreciate you clapping. And the second, right, is somebody's like, yo, what in this world does this have to do with leadership? Like, I promise you we're going to get there, all right? We're on the way. We're almost there, right? So stars align on this day. Her homegirl's in the corner like, ooh, girl, right? And she says yes, right? And so I'm like super excited, right? Fantastic. And so, like, I neglected to tell you at the beginning of this conversation that I was a freshman and that she was a senior, right? And she's like, captain of the dance team and all of these things. And these details are important, right? Like, not because like, ugh, but because of what I'm about to tell you next, right? I'd never been to a dance before. So I had to figure out how to dance. If y'all have ever seen Napoleon Dynamite or Love Don't Cost a Thing, kind of the same movie, but a little bit different. Conversation for another time. We went to go pick her up. And when I say we, that's like me and my mom because I'm 14, I don't have a car, right? But everything's good. Like, she's rolling with it. Things are perfect. I'm from the pre-selfie era, right? Like, my high school experience was before the first iPhone. Like, you were really dope if you had like a Sidekick or a Motorola Razr, right? So like, this couldn't take place on an Instagram story is what I'm trying to tell you, right? Like, we had to go at that time and take like the photo. You all know what I'm talking about? Like, you got to go take the yeah, you all have been here, right? So we get to the dance, everything's good. Like, I'm walking real different now. Right, I told y'all it was a little bit like this. Now I'm like, the lean couldn't be farther back, right? And like, it's magic. We go, the DJ's playing all the cuts. I won't name the songs because I'll feel really old. Everything's good. We have to go stand in this line, right, in like the cafeteria to go take these photos. Now at this point, I go to a school of about 2,000 students. I've made the basketball team. I'm kind of getting the senior head nods. Freshmen, y'all know what I'm talking about? Is anybody? Yeah, somebody's like, oh, I'm a cool freshman. All right. So, like, getting the head nods, there's people that I'm walking past, like, you know, we're high-fiving each other, all of these things. And we go in, we take the photo. Like, you all know what I'm talking about. We leave, we dance the night away. We go to Denny's afterward because I love Denny's. Shout out to Denny's. And I lay down that night, right? Like, and my 14-year-old, like, I'm laying down on this pillow, like, take me now. The world is perfect. Right? Have y'all ever, I don't know if you all have had that moment before, but I'm like, this is it. Right? And so, as you all know, at this time period, you all still take school pictures at some point, right? And your parents want to see if your bangs still did what they were supposed to do. All right, still being a little bit fake, it's cool. And so we get these photos back like a week later, and I'm sitting at the lunch table. Life Touch gives you your envelope, right? You look through, everybody's showing everybody, girl, your dress was so fire. Oh boy, I see you with the shoes, right? Like, doing the whole thing, that's what folks are doing. I open up my envelope, right? I slide it out. I look at the photo, I put it right back in the envelope, seal it, and I leave the lunch table. Right? Y'all already know what's on the way. Right? I leave this table and I'm like mortified. And the reason being is because we talked about all this buildup, about me making the basketball team, about the poem, about her saying yes, about us going to Denny's, about me learning how to dance, like all of these great things. Right? And when I opened up the photos, there was a life-size booger on my nose. Like, gigantic. Like, if you've ever seen a quarter before. Like, it was terrible. Ruined everything up until this point. So I did, like, what any smart person would do in this situation, I called my grandma, right? Pink Motorola Razr, like, grandma, right? I got to tell her, like, what's going on. And, like, I spill it to her, like, grandma, this is what happened. There's a booger in my nose, and the photo is ruined and all this stuff. And she goes, this is how you know my grandma's my grandma. She goes, baby, don't you got any friends? And I say, yeah, grandma. Like, it was MySpace top 8 at that time. I'm explaining all of the things to her. I'm like, yeah, I have friends, grandma. She goes, well, baby, how many people go to your school? And how many people went to my school? Right? Y'all been paying attention. I appreciate it. And she goes, aren't you on the basketball team, baby? And she says, yeah, I am, right? And she goes, baby, didn't you go with a date? I said, yeah. She said, how come nobody told you you had a booger in your nose? And I had to pause for a second, right? Because I had newfound teammates, right? I went to school with all of the people who were giving me high fives and head nods and all of these things. I went with, like, who at the time was, like, right, the cheerleader of my dreams to go to the date with, and she didn't tell me. Right? Nobody had mentioned this to me. And so my grandmother gave me the best advice I had ever received in my life and still believe up until this point. And she said, for the rest of your life, here's something that I need you to consider. I want you to surround yourself with people who care more about your well-being than they do about your feelings. There's no excuse why nobody let you know that you had a booger in your nose. Here's where we begin to talk about leadership. And this might be the part where y'all stop enjoying this talk. So what I'm offering you is that some of the best leaders in the world, when I think about Dr. King, when I think about Fannie Lou Hamer, when I think about individuals who are activists or creators or who have created the conditions that we live in now, they were willing to let whoever, whenever know that they had a booger in their nose. Because they cared more about the well-being of their community than they did about the feelings of who was in power at the time. They spoke truth when they needed to speak truth. Right? They showed up, didn't care about name tags, positionality, any of those things, and came in to interrupt what they needed to do. One of the other things that was really valuable about them is that they allowed people around them to give them feedback and let them know when they had boogers in their nose as well. Who I don't want us to be is a group of individuals who play holier than thou, especially when we're talking about inclusion. Where we're in a space of calling things out, but when someone brings something to our attention, we're quiet about it or avoid it. So what I'm offering you right now, right, I know that story took place in 2007, right, we're standing in 2022, and some of us might have some leadership boogers in our nose. Can I holler at you about what those might be? Yeah. Ooh, okay. So here's what I'll offer you. At bare minimum, if we're still using racial slurs, racist jokes, making fun of people's identities, genders, expressions, the way that they love, or any other diversity characteristics that we can't control, I would offer that you might have a booger in your nose. And I would hate for it to ruin the picture of what your community can be. What I would offer you is that if you're holding a leadership position and you're not walking in integrity, if you're telling people to do one thing and showing up in another way, that you might have a booger in your nose. What I'm offering you is that if you show up in leadership positions and hold a name tag so that it look good on your college application and not because you're trying to make community impact, you might have a booger in your nose. And I would hate for it to ruin the picture of who it is that we can be because we're looking for accolades instead of impact. Here's the last thing that I'll offer you on these boogers, and this is one that shows up in my world really often. How many of you are interested in the idea of activism or justice? Yes, thank you for shouting, right? I'm excited for you. Here's one of the things that I've witnessed a lot, and one of the things that I've had to check myself on, is that there is a lot of rhetoric around deconstructing, interrupting, dismantling, tearing something down. And what I would offer is that we have to spend just as much energy on deconstructing something as we do with the idea that we would replace it with. If we don't know what we would replace something with, we might create chaos and decide to call it change. So what I'm offering you is that if we're going to be in the space of deconstructing, if we're going to dismantle, right, spend just as much energy on knowing what the solution that should be replaced, that should replace the idea that you're battling against. If not, right, we'll find ourselves being the blind leading the blind as opposed to being the individual who comes in with the solution. So what I want you to hold in your pocket today, right, is the booger story and an understanding that we have to surround ourselves with people who care more about our well-being than they do about our feelings, because those are the people who would check us when we start to get out of line. And we have to be okay with that, right? Because if not, we're not playing a game of leadership, right? We're playing a game of virtue signaling, right? We're playing black boxes on Instagram. Don't let me talk too spicy today, right? We're playing performative allyship and not playing leadership. What I would offer is that we don't want to find ourselves in that place, because that's not impact, that's posturing. Y'all still okay with me being here? Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, right? Can I tell you all a second story really quickly? Right, so this takes place at the latter part of my student career and the beginning of my professional career. I worked in the Diversity and Equity Center. Do you all have a Diversity and Equity Center somewhere? Y'all got a Diversity and Equity leader that might be present? Will y'all clap that person up? No. And this was not a part of my notes today, but I do have to say this, is that holding that position is hard. And oftentimes holding that position in a district by yourself or a building by yourself is hard. And so what I would offer you is that if somebody has made an impact in your life holding one of those positions or has created a safe space for you on campus, give them their flowers while they're still there. That is hard work, and I'm telling y'all from experience, I don't get to say anything from arrogance that I don't know from fatigue, right? That job is hard. So at that time period, I was working there, right, doing these things, and one of the things one of my maxims was, right, like, come exactly as you are. Show up and bring all of your identities with you. This is a safe space for you. Express yourself, talk how you want to talk, be how you want to be. And I was telling people that with shoes that I didn't feel like wearing, with pants that was too tight, with a button-up shirt that I hated, with a tie that was played out, and a blazer that I borrowed from my uncle, right? And the reason why I tell you this story is because I found myself telling people that they can be themselves and code switching and posturing everywhere that I went in order to survive. And so I'm telling young people, you have all of the permission in the world to be yourself, and I'm not showing up as myself. And the things that I was saying and the things that I were doing were out of alignment, and even though I'm encouraging them, the moment that somebody walked into the room that was not of our affinity group or our space, I code switched to talk a little bit different, to move a little bit different, so that I could be palatable here, so that maybe I don't get fired. And what I'm offering to you all, and my grandmother would say it like this, and if this is not your theology, please just take it as philosophy. I'm a firm understanding of church and state, but I bring my grandmother's voice into this conversation. And she says, there is nobody who can bless who you're pretending to be. Right? Whatever your religion is in this, there is nobody who can bless who you're pretending to be. The only time where you can make impact is when you're walking in who it is that you were designed, created, or walking in who you are. Right? Yeah, y'all can clap that up. And I have to tell you all this as career advice. And this is spicy, right? There's a career counselor in here who might fire me later. We spend a lot of time asking young people, and I'm sure you all have heard this, what do you want to be when you grow up? Y'all been asked this question ad nauseum, right? And oftentimes it's connected to a career, right? Do you all still take like aptitude tests? Ooh, I got to talk to somebody, right? So like this idea of like, what's your dream job? Where are you going? The best way that I've ever heard this said, and the way that I live by this now, is being said, my dreams are not and have never been connected to labor. So I don't have a dream job. I only have an idea of what it is that I want to impact in my community. And if I find myself with a title or a gold name tag that feels out of alignment with my why, baby, it's time to go. Drake would say, I'm here for a good time and not a long time. And so what I offer folks, right, is that like I show up in places as me now. And I don't have a problem with anybody who wears suits, and I know people got to do what they got to do. I just know that that's not me. And there are some people in the world who would tell me that I don't show up or dress professional, and I tell them, sure I do, you just don't understand my profession. I'm here to be relatable. I'm here to give people permission to be themselves. I'm here to let them shine in the way that they're supposed to shine, and not ask them to assimilate to any kind of standard that needs to be present. And if you asked me to stand in front of students and people who are going to look to me as mentor or going to look to me as leader, and you're asking me to posture, this isn't the place for me to be. So I encourage you all, right, to find yourself connected to a why, to find yourself connected to an impact, to find yourself connected to change before you find yourself connected to a gold name tag. I would tell you all that no matter where I've went in my life, baby, I'm hireable. I can show up anywhere and do anything, right? And I get to choose. There's never been a time where I've been without work because I've been connected to the why of impacting my community. So I would offer you as a second story, be yourself. Do what it is that you were designed to do, right? Do what it is that you feel you're supposed to do. And don't let that be refined to 8 bullets on a job description. Most of the work that we're doing around justice and activism is science fiction. We've never seen the world that we want to live in yet. And so you have to be the one to create it. The job description is not going to do it for you. So I'll tell you this last story, and then we'll get on our way out of here. Can I tell you one more story? Yeah. Right? This is like the coolest moment of my entire life. Right? Like, this is it. So this takes place when I was graduating from college. I was in my last year of school. And do you all know who Dr. Andrew Young is? Ooh, I got to speak to a history teacher. We said we know who Dr. Martin Luther King is. Right? Dr. Andrew Young was one of Dr. Martin Luther King's best friends. So in my lifetime, I've never gotten to meet Dr. King for obvious reasons, right? Dr. King was assassinated for the things that he believed in. Oftentimes we paint that story as if like Dr. King came in into racism and everything was good. There were people who didn't like what he was doing, right? And one of his best friends was a guy by the name of Dr. Andrew Young. And I got the opportunity to meet Dr. Andrew Young as I was graduating from school. He was going to be the speaker at the governor's prayer breakfast, and I was selected to be the student speaker to go before him. And so, like, I got the chance to shake his hand before all of this, and it was, like, so strange to be shaking the hand of somebody's shoulders that I was standing on, right? Like, Dr. Andrew Young is a phenomenal activist. If you've ever seen the movie Selma, he was depicted in that movie. He went on to be a mayor later, right? He brought the Olympics to the United States. Like, this guy is, like, it in terms of leadership. And I got the chance to meet him, and it was crazy, right? Like, it was one of my favorite memories in my entire life. So if I shake this down for you, right, like I'm getting ready to go on stage. We all walk into this room. It's a room about 4,000, 5,000 people. I'm sitting here, and my bacon and eggs is next to the governor's bacon and eggs, is next to Andrew Young's bacon and eggs, right? And, like, the bacon was good. I don't know if you all care about bacon, or sorry to my friends who are vegetarian, right? Like, but this bacon was on point. And so I'm sitting there, I'm eating. They do the, like, Christian page, and I go up, and I only got 3 minutes, right? I'm long-winded, so it's hard for me, right? Like, we got 3 minutes, and I'm on the governor's time. I go up, I deliver a speech, and I talk about the idea, right, like, of snatching folks out of apathy. Like, it's important for us to care, right? It's important for us to want to make impact in our communities. I tell the story of Tacoma. I land my 3 minutes, and there's a standing ovation in the room. Right, and I'm like, yo, this is like one of the first times I've ever been on stage, one of the first times I've ever shared these ideas with people, and like to have a room stand up and acknowledge that what you're saying is something that moved them feels really good. That was not the best thing that happened that day. So to follow me is the real speaker, right? Dr. Andrew Young comes up on stage, and while everyone is cheering, he asks the entire room to be quiet. Have you ever been somewhere having a good time, and like an adult comes in and is like, hey, you know what I'm talking about? And you feel like you're in trouble, right? Like, chill, we're minding our business. Anyway, he asked the entire room to be quiet. And I'm sitting here like, dang, did I do something wrong? Like, what's about to happen? And he looks at me. And like, this is my hero right here. This is my hero. Ricardo, can I ask you to be me for a second? Yeah? Y'all clap it up for Ricardo. Yeah. Ricardo, you need a second to get in character, or are you good? All right, I picked you because you were handsome. So right, Ricardo's me, I'm Dr. Andrew Young. And he looks me dead in my face, and here's what he says to me. He says, son, I've seen your spirit before. And he goes on to tell a story about an individual who's at an HBCU right, who convinced his classmates to all donate $5 to a pot so that anyway, if at any time one of their classmates fell on hardship, they didn't have to drop out. The fund is now an endowment, right? And for students who are experiencing hardship, it's money that keeps them enrolled in school. He says, I've seen your spirit before, and the thing that I have to tell you is to be careful what it is that you wish for, because I believe you're powerful enough to get it. Y'all, this is my hero. Like, my eyebrows, like, already jumped off of my face. Like, I'm like, ooh, what? Right? And then, can I ask your name, family? Yeah. Carla? Yeah. So, Carla, you're going to be the governor for a second. Do you need a second to get in character? Right. So, Dr. Andrew Young tells me what he tells me, and then he looks directly at the governor, and here's what he says. He says, and sir, I need you to get your affairs in order. Because when this young man comes of age, when he's eligible to run, your job is in trouble. Yo, and I'm like, me? You talking about me, right? Right, and the reason why this was important is because I had never had representation or affirmation from another black man who had changed the world like that before. And to be able to see myself in somebody and have them acknowledge me was one of the most powerful moments of my life. So what I'm offering you all is that, like, you all are pretty important, I hope you know. And there are always people who are looking up to you. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen the movie Spider-Man in this room, right? So I'm like OG, like way back, like Tobey Maguire was like. Yeah, shout out, right? And my favorite line in the movie, right, is that there's an individual by the name of Uncle Ben right before everything goes down. You all know exactly what I'm talking about. And he says, with great power comes. And what I'm offering you all, right, is that you will not always be in high school. Right? Your leadership and all the things have gotten you accolades and positions and things up until this point, right? There are people who are looking at you, following you, wanting to be in your footsteps, whether that be a younger sibling or somebody who you mentor or spend time with, whatever. Affirm those individuals on their way up. There's someone who's watching you because your movements are more important than just you. Here's the second thing that's important about this story is that after Dr. Andrew Young, right, says these things to both of us in the crowd, he goes on to give his speech. And this is what he says, some of the most impactful words I've ever heard, as he starts to talk about how they changed and transformed the world. He talks about the civil rights movement and all the things that they had to go through, and what he offers, he said, nobody on our team had a gold name tag, right? The biggest title that we had between us was Reverend and or Doctor. Nobody held political office. Nobody had decision-making. We had a movement in a time period where we considered ourselves equal, and some people didn't even consider us human. He said we moved around, and what happened was, right, like we took on the responsibility of honoring and impacting the 3 feet around us. He said we made change in 1 community or 2 communities and moved throughout the South. We made it in 4 or 5. We inspired other people to come along with us. And what happened is before we knew it, without any name tags, without any political positions, there was national legislation that was passed on our behalf. He said most people think you have to change the world through power. He said we believed that we could change the world through influence. And we did. He said our moral responsibility is to consistently impact the 3 feet around us. And he said, when you make that your mission, you'll be surprised at how fast things change around you. I don't tell you this story as like a fluff story or something for us to like, oh, take this away as like the teaching point. Can I illustrate this for you for a second? Ricardo, can I have you stand, please? All right. Yeah, y'all can give it up for Ricardo. And here's what I want you all to know. I want you to imagine that if Ricardo decided, like we spoke about at the beginning of this, that he was going to be somebody who made community work for everybody, if he was going to honor, respect, and commit to impacting the 3 feet around him, if he was going to bring about the beloved community and took the stance that anybody who came within 3 feet of him felt loved, respected, felt like they mattered, felt beautiful, and felt like they could bring their whole selves, he might impact 2 people. Can I have the 2 of you who are sitting next to Ricardo? Can I have you all stand if you're able? Right? And what I'll offer you all, right, is that if now the 4 of these individuals decided that they were going to impact the 3 feet around them, that they were going to bring about the beloved community anywhere that they went, that people were going to feel beautiful, that they were going to feel loved, that they were going to feel like they mattered, and they could bring all of their identities to the door. They might inspire the role in front of them. Can I have you all stand if you're able? Right, and we start to see a small conglomerate of individuals. In this school, in your school, it might be a club. It might be a collective of friends. It might be the basketball team. It might be a selection of cheerleaders. It might be the ASB, whoever that might be. But it might be a small, committed group of individuals who decided anybody who came within 3 feet of them was going to feel loved and respected and felt like they mattered, and they could bring all of their identities with them. And it wouldn't be long before this small group of individuals impacted everyone in this section. Can I have you all stand if you're able? Somebody looking around like, is that us? Right? And what this might be at your school is a grade level. And if we decided that sophomores were going to be the class in the 3 years that we have left, that we were going to impact the world around us, that we were going to consistently impact the 3 feet around us, right? If people were going to feel loved, respected, and felt like they mattered, if we were going to bring the beloved community anywhere that we went, it might not be long before we inspire the rest of the people. Can I have you all stand in the auditorium if you're able? And if not, please just put one of your hands in the air. Here's the thing that I'll offer you, is that all of this can be made possible because one individual decided that they were going to impact the 3 feet around them. The story that I tell about Tacoma started with one person, and his name was Tim Herron, in his girlfriend's garage. The entire school district is different because he decided to take a stand. I told you a story today, right, about myself and deciding that I was going to be authentic. Right? I've spoken to hundreds of thousands of students across the country, some of which who have come up to me afterward and said that I didn't know if I wanted to live longer, and because of people like you, I still want to be alive. The last story that I told you is about one of the greatest civil rights movement folks that I've ever gotten the opportunity to meet. And they decided that they were going to impact the 3 feet around them, and we know all of the story of the civil rights movement, some of us benefiting from those freedoms right now. I'm not offering you this as a fluff story. I'm not offering you as like the rah-rah on what we get to walk out on. What I'm offering you is that this is the way that the world has changed day in and day out every time that it's shown up. As a small, committed few, it's a group of individuals willing to impact what's in their sphere of influence and being relentless until their vision comes to fruition. What I'm offering you all is to have each other's back, stand in integrity, make sure you know when you got a booger in your nose and give people permission to call you out. Be authentic. Be anchored in why you're doing this work in the first place. And don't feel like you have to change the entire world at once. Just start with the 3 feet around you. And I promise you, as evidenced by this room, you'll create the world that you want to live in. So I thank you all for your time. I appreciate you all for being here. And I have a little time if you want to ask some questions. And so I know we have to get out of here shortly, but I have a little time. Yes, we have a little time to answer any questions that people might have. All right. What's going on? Ooh, yeah. So when my friend asked, right, my friend came up to the table, and you all know, like, shout out to whoever provided all of the stickers. Those are really dope. That's like Hydro Flask Heaven. Right, provided the stickers, and, like, they came up to our table, and I responded, and they said, hey, can we look at these stickers? And I said, well, it's your world, right? So the statement originated on the basketball court. If there's any basketball players in the room, right, I would throw it to the wing, and if I knew the wing had a mismatch, I would get out of the way and say, it's your world, right? Do whatever it is that you need to do in order to get this bucket, right? When I say this in real time now, the thing that I want to affirm people about, like, is that you have agency. Like, yo, this is yours just as much as it's anybody else's, right? Like walk in that power. Can I tell y'all something really spicy for a quick second? I've abandoned using the term minority. Y'all heard this, right? Right? And I tell folks there's absolutely nothing minor about me. And I don't want, there's so many messages in the world, depending on what diversity characteristics you occupy, particularly if you're a black and brown person in this world, that might tell you that you're less than because of. That might tell you, like there was pseudoscience to justify why people couldn't have access to things because they were closer to chimpanzees than they were to actual humans. Like, and I know the history of that. I know how that gets embedded in different things. I know how that shows up in media. I know, and so anytime that I get the chance, I remind people, this is your world, right? You belong here just as much as anybody else does. And there's a long line of ancestors who dreamt about you during hardship, who have already affirmed that you were supposed to be there, right? Like, they endured for you. You know what I mean? So when I say the word, like, it's your world, because it is, and don't let anybody convince you anything different, right? You have just as much entitlement to the space as they do. Anything else? Any other questions? Oh, this is all over the place, yo. Okay.
Has the how has the experiences that you've gone through positively or negatively affect yourself? And what would you tell your 14-year-old self now, like knowing what you know now?
Ooh, a lot of things. So here's one of the biggest things, right, is that, so I don't know. I told you I was a ball player. It's kind of obvious that I'm a black dude, right? And like the rules of masculinity at that time would have not have told me that I could be a poet, a writer, that I could like be in theater, that art was something that was built for me, right? And so I think that was one of the ways in which I was negatively impacted, right? Like I believed the stories of who I needed to posture and be, and it stopped me from doing like a lot of the things that I love to do, right? I didn't start performing poetry until I was like 19. And one of the schools that I went to had like a full-on theater program. And I'm like, yo, I could have been Denzel. No, conversation for another time. And so like, not believing the myths that are often told about you or who you're supposed to be, I think is one of the ways I was negatively impacted. I started to believe those things. I do think one of the ways in which I was positively impacted, and I think, right, like, pressure creates diamonds in a lot of situations. And because I know how to go without things, because I know how to like operate when people don't believe in me, like when the conditions are fair, like I know how to excel. And so like, I don't want to glorify trauma by any means or glorify any of the isms in the world, but I think I've come out on some of the other difficult things as better or stronger. And now like when resistance doesn't show up, oh, it's really game time, right? I think the advice that I would give my 14-year-old self is the same thing I told you all today, right? Be anchored and be authentic. There's nobody who can be you. There's a lot of other people who could wear that name tag or fill that job description, right? Ooh, yeah, I'm gonna talk spicy. If somebody employed in this room right now quit their job today, within 2 weeks, their job will be posted online and somebody else will be filling the position. Can't nobody else be Christian Page. Can't nobody else be whatever your first, last, middle, and I hope you have a really cool middle name. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. But nobody else can be you. They can't be you. There is no open position for you, right? Like, that's what I would tell 14-year-old me. What's up?
Judging from your posture and the way how you talk, I can tell you do poetry.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to know if you have any other poetry pieces that you do.
Yeah. So all of my poetry is online. Sneak preview. This is the first group I'm telling this, but I'm also releasing a book at the end of this year. Thank you. So you can find all of these things online. I'm on all socials as @CPageSpeaks, and my website is just christianpage.com. Trying to be conscious of time, so I know you all got buses to catch. Okay, can I give you a quick 16 really quick? Y'all know what a quick 16 means? It's like 16 bars, like a rap verse. Is that okay? Okay. Because I don't have a ton of time for like another poem, but right, like I would love to share more with you. Is that okay? All right. Do y'all have rhythm in this room? Okay, all right. Would you be able to like, could we hold a snap? Ooh. Y'all double snapping. Calm it down, right? Y'all, hold on, time out. Y'all going a little too fast, right? Y'all stay with me. Are you ready? Yeah. Ooh, y'all got it. Okay, somebody got rhythm. We're with it. Yep. See, it's the metaphysical. I missed the count of the residual, never standing invisible. See me, I'm hyper-visible, imitable. A little different than your typical. The wealth is in the physical. My wealth is in the spiritual. I reach inside your soul and touch the parts that feeling healable. Melodic with the medicine. Just call me Dr. Lyrical. I still believe in miracles. At least I think so. Like how we became the culture when they told us we was Negroes, and I'm standing tall, 10 toes, fresher than the Mentos. Play this joint loud, let it blare up out your windows. Culture cop and copied, you would swear that this was Kinko's. Mental of a do boy, swagger of amigos. Walk like I'm a king, even if I'm in my street clothes. They ask you where I'm going, say the throne, that's where the king goes. Thank y'all. Is there maybe another question before we got to roll out of here? We got about 5 minutes, so maybe time for one or two. Yeah, what's going on? Yes. Yo, thank you. So for those of you who don't know, the same dude who wrote Hamilton wrote all of the songs for Encanto. Yo, me and my daughter be jamming in the room, so thank you. Other thoughts, other questions? I see one straight ahead in the red right here. Ooh, I can't tell you that. But be on the lookout. Right behind in the blue. What's that? Where do I see myself in 10 years? Hopefully watching what you all are doing in 10 years. This is the last thing. I know we got other questions and stuff, but I know we got to get out of here because there's a bus. I'll be happy to hang out, and I'll catch you in the hallway. But this is one of the things that's really important to me, so I want to leave you all with this idea. And I'm getting the 5-minute hand signal up here, so I got to be quick. Right? Here's my job, right? It's like, y'all go read this book. It's called The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. If you got audiobooks or whatever you need to do to figure this out, I think somebody bootlegged it on YouTube. You can find it there. But he talks about this idea of the infinite game, right? And what are you committed to forever, right? And I could give you a finite response of like, man, I want to speak to this many people, or I want to make this much money, or I want my book to sell this much. Here's my ultimate goal, right? Is if any of you have ever held an apple before, like you may not know this, but you've held the potential of an orchard in your hand. Right? We don't often think of an apple that way. We eat it and we throw the core in the trash, right? But inside that core are seeds. And if you were to bury those seeds and like nurture the soil that they're in, like you would grow another tree. And that tree would produce apples, and right, those apples, seeds, tree, you all get this, right? Like this is the circle of life. What my hope is in 10 years that I've planted enough seeds that there's an orchard standing, and nobody can ignore us when we talk about inclusion and justice. So, awesome. We're at time. Yeah, so we're at time. I know you all have to go. I have to go. Would love to remain connected to you all. If you're on socials, find me on socials. Please ask your parents' permission because I don't want to be that guy. But yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate being with you all. I love you, and there's nothing that you can do about it. I'll see you all later.
Can we get another round of applause for Mr. Page? Please stay seated.
I think we can do better than that. Can we get a round of applause for Mr. Page? Before our day ends, we would like to take one final opportunity to thank our sponsors, Hazel Miller Foundation, Rick Steves Foundation, Foundation for Edmond Schools, and a special thank you to our venue sponsor, the Edmond Center for the Arts, for all their generous support today.
Did you all enjoy the first annual Student Leadership Conference? The planning committee would love to get your feedback, and so for the next 5 minutes, I would love for everybody to pull out their phones and scan the QR codes on the back of their panel located inside the white tote bags. Make sure you're signed into your school account to get access. Could we get a little bit of music while we work on the surveys? Thank you. A reminder to please stay seated until asked to get up.
You have to sign into your school account. Didn't we say that? Didn't you say you have to sign into your school account?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. We said sign into your school account to access.
1 second.
Well, we don't know what's going on there. They said they didn't. So you can't access it. What is it? No big deal. No worries. If you can't access the survey, what?
If you're unable to access the survey, don't worry because an email will be sent to you after the conference where then you can take the survey if wanted.
Yeah, no, was it 5 minutes up? They just have an appointment. Oh, yes, we can. 5 minutes. Yeah. And then. Are you gonna? Yeah. Okay. You want to? Should I say it or you got it? No, let's just give it. And then don't forget to say it loud. We would now like everyone to cover their phone and yeah, we will not ask students to silence their phones. Check out the table.
We will now take 1 more minute to wrap up the survey and then be asking students to put away their phones and silence them, please.
So should we wait for a little bit? Turn off their phones, children. Did you look at which time? 43. So 1 more. We should probably just look into the stage. Look into it. We're gonna tell them like, okay, now we're gonna get
Please silence down and take a moment to turn it over to Dr. Or you'd be like, no. Do you want to say? Yeah. No, okay. Okay, we will now ask the students to silence their phone with some phones and then I'll move it over to you.
Okay, we should go over to the middle. We're like on this side. Okay, go.
We will now ask students to please put away their phones and stay silent for the remainder of the conference. And we will now hand it over to Jazzy.
Before we end today, we would like to invite Dr. Vergara up to say a few closing words.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. How is everybody doing? You got fun today or no? Yes? Okay, so my name is Victor Vergara, and number one, I'm a proud Latino, proud person of color. Number two, I'm your director of equity, so I'm the director of equity for the school district. So as Christian Page say, my job is really hard. It's extremely hard. But you know why I'm here? Because all of you. Because you need to open the doors for more students and more children. And we need to do this. And let me tell you something. We started thinking about this conference about a year and a half ago. It was the idea of me coming into a group of people with the idea, wanting to make a difference, the 3 feet around me. And then we had a wonderful team who say, you know what? I can do this. I can help. And then that other group started making a difference. And how we ended up today, after a year and a half, is with all of you here. So number one, I want to give a big round of applause to all our team. We have people like Megan Guillen, Letitia Williams, Emily, amazing, Elizabeth Puga. We have students. You cannot imagine how many hours it takes for us to get here today. We have an incredible, amazing speaker in the morning, Dolores Huerta. She's 96 years old. And she does only 5 or 6 events per year, but she decided to come here. Why? Because she believes in us and you. And that's why she was here. And then your sessions and Christian Page. So I want you to do me a favor now. The same idea, I want you to go and start making a difference around you. 3 feet around you. It's all how it's going to start. And keep going. And please tell your friends how wonderful your day was today, because we want to make this bigger and better every year. Our goal today, we had about 250 students. But I want you to remember we have about 6,000 high school students. So next year, my own personal goal, I want to have 1,000 students in a different venue, bigger and better. Why? Because all of you need this opportunity. And I want you to go thinking about what all we talked today, thinking about your passion, about what you want to be and do in life, and how you want to make the difference in the world. Because in my job, every day, I hear microaggressions, I hear racism going on in our community, in our schools, and that needs to stop. We need to change that. And as the conference say, becoming leaders of change, we are the leaders of change.